At my mother-in-law's birthday dinner in Rome, my seat was missing. My husband chuckled. "Oops, I guess we miscounted." As the family laughed, I calmly replied, "Seems I'm not family," before rising and walking out. 30 minutes later, they discovered I had canceled the entire event, the venue, the catering, everything. Their faces drained to a ghostly white. "Seems I'm not family," I repeated, my voice steady despite the earthquake pounding inside my chest. Even as they continued to hire my company for their events, the Caldwells second-guessed every decision, made last-minute changes, and claimed my ideas as their own at family gatherings. My expertise was requested only to be dismissed, my business reduced to a charming hobby. "Anna has such a good eye for these things," Eleanor would coo to her friends, patting my hand with patronizing sweetness. "It's almost like having a personal party planner in the family." Sean never defended me. Later, in private, he would shrug and say, "That's just how my mother is. Don't take it personally." But it was personal, and it deepened with each passing year. So when the chance came to plan Eleanor's 70th birthday in Rome, I thought it might be my redemption. A week-long celebration in the Eternal City, capped by a dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant overlooking the Colosseum. It should have been the crowning achievement of my career. I threw myself into the project, calling in every favor, every connection I'd cultivated. That's when I began to see the cracks in the Caldwell facade. Deposits for venues were mysteriously delayed. Vendors called me directly, asking about payments that hadn't arrived. When I raised it with Sean, he brushed it off, blaming the family accountant's caution with international transfers. But one evening, on his laptop left open, I saw the truth. Failing investments, mortgaged properties, maxed out lines of credit. The Caldwell fortune was bleeding out fast. Still, I pressed on. I used my own company's credit line to cover deposits, convincing myself it was temporary. Once the birthday was over, Sean would explain everything. That was the story I told myself, until the morning of our flight. Sean was in the shower when his phone buzzed. I had never looked at his messages before, but something compelled me to glance. On the screen, a preview. "Can't wait to see you in Rome. Have you told her yet?" The sender was V. My hands moved before my mind could stop them. I opened the thread. Vanessa Hughes, Sean's college girlfriend, the woman his parents had always adored, the one they had expected him to marry. The messages stretched back for months, plans made, a future mapped out, and the revelation of a baby, their baby, due in 4 months. I took screenshots, forwarded them to myself, and erased the evidence from his phone. Then I zipped up my suitcase, fixed a smile onto my face, and boarded the flight to Rome with my husband and his family. Now, standing outside that restaurant in Rome, my choice was clear. I would not confront Sean before the dinner. I would let the night unravel on its own, and when it did, I would be ready. Our flight touched down at Fiumicino Airport just as the golden sweep of the Italian sunset lit Rome's skyline. I had arranged private transportation for the entire Caldwell entourage: Sean's parents, Eleanor and Richard, his sister Melissa and her husband Grant, his brother Thomas with his wife Claire, and 2 sets of aunts and uncles. A convoy of gleaming black Mercedes vans waited at the terminal, the kind of subtle luxury that should have impressed them. Instead, Eleanor's first words as she stepped onto the tarmac were, "I thought I specified the hotel cars, Anna. These seem rather generic." I bit my tongue, as I had so many times before. The hotel had a scheduling conflict. "These are from Lux Transport. They handle most of the diplomatic fleet in Rome." But my words evaporated. Eleanor was already leaning toward Richard, the 2 of them murmuring in that familiar, conspiratorial way that never once included me. The Hotel de Russie greeted us with the flawless elegance I had orchestrated down to the smallest detail. In the private lounge, champagne sparkled in crystal flutes, while bellhops whisked away luggage with seamless efficiency. I had spent months curating every moment, booking suites with panoramic views, arranging welcome baskets overflowing with Italian delicacies, and tailoring personalized itineraries for each member of the Caldwell clan. Eleanor barely skimmed her itinerary before setting it aside. "We'll just play it by ear," she declared, dismissing weeks of careful planning with a flick of her hand. "The family knows Rome quite well." Our suite was breathtaking. A private terrace overlooking the Spanish Steps, fresh flowers in every room, and a bottle of Sean's favorite Barolo breathing on the sideboard. Yet the moment we entered, his phone buzzed. He slipped onto the terrace, speaking in hushed tones. The words lingered in the air of that exclusive Roman restaurant as 12 pairs of eyes fixed on me, some in shock, others with thinly veiled satisfaction. My husband Sean's light chuckle still echoed in my ears as I turned from the table where no chair had been set for me. Humiliation burned hot through my veins as I exited the restaurant, yet not a single tear fell. Instead, an uncanny calm washed over me. I slipped out my phone and opened the event management app that had built my career. "Work," he mouthed through the glass, but I knew better. "Work?" I asked when he finally returned. "Just some investment issues," he said, avoiding my gaze. "Let's get ready for dinner." The welcome dinner at a charming trattoria in Trastevere was my first undeniable sign of exclusion. At the last minute, the seating chart shifted, and I ended up at the far end of the long table, separated from Sean by his cousin and aunt. As the evening unfolded, inside jokes ricocheted between family members, stories of past Italian vacations I had never been part of. When I attempted to join a conversation about the week's activities, Melissa cut me off. "Oh, Anna, we've actually decided to do some family shopping tomorrow instead of the Vatican tour." "Family shopping?" I echoed. Eleanor leaned in smoothly, voice dripping with condescension. "Just one of our traditions, dear. You'd be bored. Why don't you use the time to check on the birthday arrangements? That's your expertise, after all." The pattern only deepened over the following days. I woke each morning to find Sean already gone, a scribbled note left behind about breakfast with his father. The rest of the family vanished for hours on impromptu excursions, trips everyone seemed to know about but me. Conversations in the hotel lobby hushed the moment I approached. Dinner reservations were suddenly rearranged to include old friends in Rome, friends who studied me with thinly veiled curiosity, as if gauging how well I was handling what they already knew was coming. On the third morning, the opportunity revealed itself. Sean rushed out to meet his brother, leaving his briefcase unlocked. Inside, I found confirmation of every suspicion that had been gnawing at me. Draft separation papers, prepared by the Caldwell family attorney, dated 2 months earlier. A proposed settlement that was laughably small compared to what I was entitled to. And most damning of all, a script. An actual script detailing how Sean would announce our divorce at his mother's birthday dinner, framing it as a mutual, amicable decision. My hands trembled as I photographed each page with my phone. There it was in black and white, the perfectly stage-managed exit of the unsuitable wife, orchestrated for maximum dignity for the Caldwells and maximum humiliation for me. Eleanor's birthday wasn't just a celebration, it was to be my funeral as a Caldwell. Instead of confronting Sean, I funneled my rage into methodical documentation. Each day, I invented excuses to return alone to our suite, searching for more evidence. I found bank statements showing massive transfers to offshore accounts, email printouts about liquidating assets before the situation becomes public, and a handwritten note from Eleanor to Sean. "Once this unpleasantness with Anna is behind us, Vanessa will be welcomed back properly." My professional mask never slipped. I confirmed the floral arrangements, met with the restaurant manager, approved the custom menu cards, all while quietly gathering digital breadcrumbs of the Caldwell's collapsing empire. To anyone who asked why I seemed distracted, I murmured about last-minute event details. In truth, I was building an arsenal. The morning of Eleanor's birthday broke bright and clear. I woke early, slipping from bed without disturbing Sean. The day's itinerary was relentless. A private tour of the Borghese Gallery, lunch at a vineyard outside the city, and then preparations for the evening's grand dinner. As the event planner, I was expected to arrive at the restaurant early to ensure perfection. In the hotel's business center, I was printing final confirmations when Eleanor's voice drifted through the thin wall from the concierge desk. Her imperious tone carried like a blade. "There will be 12 seats, not 13, she ordered crisply. "I don't care what the original reservation says. The seating chart I provided is final. And no, it won't be an issue. The arrangement has been discussed with my son. His wife will not be staying for the dinner. A family matter, you understand. No need for questions when she leaves." My blood turned to ice as the pieces snapped together. 30 minutes was all I needed, more than enough. My name is Anna Morgan Caldwell. 5 years ago, I was simply Anna Morgan, founder of Elite Affairs, Boston's most sought-after event planning company. I had built my business from nothing, paying my way through business school and carving a name for myself one flawless occasion at a time. Every glittering gala, every seamless corporate gathering, every society wedding bore my invisible signature. The missing seat wasn't an accident or a last-minute change. It was the centerpiece of their scheme. A carefully staged humiliation designed to make my departure appear as my choice, not their orchestration. I closed my laptop, gathered my papers, and walked to the elevator with deliberate calm. Inside, I pulled out my phone and began making new arrangements. If the Caldwells wanted Eleanor's birthday to be unforgettable, I would see to it. But it would not be remembered the way they intended. At a Roma restaurant, I arrived an hour before the others, as any flawless planner would. The rooftop setting was spectacular, the Colosseum glowing in the amber embrace of sunset. I moved through the space with a surgeon's precision, inspecting every detail. The hand-calligraphed place cards, the delicate spray of white peonies and roses, Eleanor's favorites, the champagne chilling in crystal buckets, the 7-course tasting menu awaiting final approval, the 3-tiered cake standing like a jewel of Italian artistry. "Is everything to your satisfaction, signora?" asked Marco, the maitre d'. "Perfect," I said, the words smooth on my tongue. It would be the last event I ever planned for the Caldwells, and despite everything, my professional pride demanded perfection. Back at the hotel, I slipped into the midnight blue Valentino gown I had bought just for this night. My hands were steady as I applied my makeup, though my reflection told another story. 5 years of struggling to belong in a world determined to cast me out had left their mark, but not in defeat. Instead of breaking me, the Caldwells had forged something stronger. Resolve sharpened to steel. The family gathered in the hotel lobby, ready to depart as a united front. I arrived precisely on time. Eleanor, draped in vintage Chanel, glittered with diamonds that caught every shard of light. Sean's eyes widened slightly when he saw me, whether with memory of what once drew him to me, or calculation of how soon he might be rid of me. I couldn't tell. "Anna, darling, you look lovely," Eleanor said, brushing air kisses past my cheeks. "We're just waiting for the cars." The drive to the restaurant was brief, filled with hollow chatter about the day's excursions, activities I had been conveniently excluded from. In the elevator to the rooftop, Sean rested his hand on the small of my back, a touch that once felt intimate but now registered as pure theater, staged for the benefit of the attendant. When the doors opened, the terrace revealed itself in all its orchestrated splendor. The space I had designed shimmered beneath the stars, tables dressed in linen, candlelight flickering in the Roman night, the Colosseum looming in the distance, lit like a monument to glory and inevitable collapse. How fitting. Eleanor entered first, basking in applause from the assembled family. One by one, they moved toward the large round table I had specified, meant for 13. I followed behind Sean, watching him glide to his seat beside his mother. I searched for mine, scanning the circle for the place card that should have borne my name. Nothing. No chair. No setting. Not even the smallest acknowledgement of my existence. For a moment I stood suspended in disbelief, a living tableau of exclusion. Conversations continued around me with deliberate nonchalance. The waitstaff, who had confirmed the seating with me only hours earlier, looked stricken but stayed silent. "Is something wrong?" Eleanor asked, her voice sweetly innocent, pitched just loud enough to draw every eye to me. "There seems to be a mistake," I replied, my tone steadier than the fury rising in my chest. "My place setting is missing." The play unfolded exactly as scripted. Furrowed brows, sympathetic murmurs, Sean pushing half out of his chair, a pantomime of concern that didn't touch his eyes. "That's odd," Melissa said, feigning curiosity as she glanced at the table. "Did someone count wrong?" Richard cleared his throat. Perhaps there was a miscommunication with the restaurant staff. And then Sean delivered his line, smooth, casual, rehearsed. He chuckled. "Oops. Guess we miscounted." My reputation for discretion, perfection, and the ability to pull off the impossible made me the planner of choice for Boston's elite. That's how I met Sean Caldwell, at the charity gala I organized for Boston Children's Hospital. Tall, with impeccably styled dark hair, and a smile that creased warmly at the corners of his eyes, Sean carried the easy confidence of a man who had never worried about money. The family laughed, not loudly. That would have been too crude, but with the quiet amusement of people sharing a private joke. In that moment, clarity cut through me like glass. The missing chair wasn't a mistake. It was the linchpin of their scheme. A calculated humiliation, staged in public to keep me silent, setting the scene for the story they would later spin about poor Anna, the fragile wife who couldn't endure the weight of Caldwell expectations. My gaze drifted around the table, one face at a time. Eleanor, triumphant behind her birthday smile. Richard, uneasy but complicit. Melissa and Thomas, savoring the spectacle. Their spouses, guilty enough to look away, yet too weak to object. And Sean, my husband, the man who once vowed to stand against the world with me. He regarded me with clinical detachment, like a scientist observing a specimen in a controlled trial. I could have erupted. I could have demanded a chair, exposed their machinations in front of the waitstaff, and staged the sort of scandal that would echo in Caldwell lore for decades. That was what they anticipated. Eleanor would play the martyr mother, Sean the wounded husband, and the divorce narrative would fall neatly into place. Instead, I straightened my spine, lifted my chin, and spoke the line that severed me from their script. "Seems I'm not family." 4 words, simple, unvarnished, lethal. The smiles faltered. Sean's smugness flickered into doubt. The room stilled. I had gone off script, and in doing so, reclaimed the narrative. "I'll see myself out," I said, my dignity intact, my voice as steady as steel. "Anna, don't be dramatic," Sean called after me, another rehearsed line. "We can fix this." I didn't turn. I walked calmly through the restaurant, nodding to the staff who had silently witnessed my erasure. In the elevator, I drew a deep breath, then another. By the time I reached the street, the trembling had stopped. Across from the restaurant, a small cafe provided the perfect vantage point. I ordered an espresso and pulled out my phone. This was the moment I had prepared for. The 30 minutes of freedom the Caldwells would waste congratulating themselves on their tidy expulsion of the unsuitable wife. First came the email to Marco, the restaurant manager. A contingency we had discussed in confidence, common among planners of high-profile events. Attached were my credentials as account holder and coordinator, along with authorization to reverse every payment. Then the calls. To the vineyard scheduled for tomorrow's lunch. The private Vatican guide. The Amalfi Coast yacht captain. The villa in Tuscany. One by one, I dismantled the week's festivities, reclaiming every deposit through my company's credit line. With each cancellation, a weight lifted from my chest. Sean's emails began flooding in. First annoyed, then confused, then panicked as the pattern became clear. I ignored them all. 28 minutes after leaving the restaurant, I drained the last of my espresso, set the cup gently on its saucer, and paid the bill. It was time for the final act. I rose, smoothed the folds of my midnight blue Valentino, and crossed the street. The glow of aroma shimmered like a stage awaiting its curtain fall. I slipped in through the service entrance, a passage I had memorized during my earlier inspection. Marco, the maitre d', was waiting. Concern shadowed his features. "Signora Caldwell, are you certain about this? It is most unusual." "I'm absolutely certain, Marco, and I appreciate your discretion." I handed him a sealed envelope. "Inside, you'll find proof of the payment reversals and confirmation that my company's guarantee has been withdrawn. The Caldwells will need to provide a new method of payment if they wish to continue." He nodded gravely. In this business, reputation was currency, and favors were never forgotten. I had worked with Marco on 3 separate occasions for Boston clients in Rome. He owed me, and though my request might strike him as strange, professional loyalty ensured his compliance. "When should I inform them?" he asked. "5 minutes. I'll text you. I'd like to watch from somewhere discreet." He guided me to a small alcove near the kitchen, an unassuming corner with a flawless view of the Caldwell table. There they were, mid-toast, champagne flutes glittering in the candlelight, faces glowing with self-satisfaction. The first course had just been served, Osetra caviar flown in at Eleanor's imperious request. His charm had the polished quality of someone born into privilege, yet there was a spark of sincerity in the way he asked about my work. "So you're the wizard behind all this?" he said, sweeping a hand toward the transformed ballroom of the Four Seasons. "My mother has been searching for someone to handle her charity function next month. I think I've just found her answer." One job led to another, and soon I was planning events regularly for the Caldwell family. It had been almost too easy to dismantle the entire week's celebration. High-end hospitality is a web of trust and reputation. As the planner whose company credit line secured every booking, I alone had the authority to cancel or amend. The contracts, the payments, the digital trail, every document bore my name, not Eleanor's, not Sean's. My phone buzzed. A message from Sean. "Anna, where are you? Stop being childish and come back." Another followed seconds later. "Mother is upset. You're embarrassing yourself." I didn't bother replying. Instead, I tapped out a quick message to Carmen at Villa Borghese, where the Caldwells were meant to stay during the Tuscany leg of their trip. Within minutes, she confirmed the cancellation and assured me my generous tip to her staff would be refunded directly to my business account. My phone buzzed again, Sean's messages now firing in rapid succession. "The hotel just called. Our reservation for tomorrow night is cancelled." "What are you doing?" "Anna, this is ridiculous. Call me immediately. This is not funny. Fix this now." I typed 3 words to Marco. "You may proceed." From my shadowed alcove, I watched the unraveling begin. Marco, flanked by 2 staff members, approached the table with quiet authority. He bent low to speak discreetly to Richard, seated opposite Eleanor at the head of the table. At first, the family barely noticed, continuing their meal as though nothing had changed. Then Richard's expression shifted. Polite interest giving way to confusion, then hardening into alarm. He reached for his wallet, gesturing animatedly, But Marco only shook his head, offering the tablet as silent proof. The hum of conversation faltered. Eleanor set down her fork, her regal posture stiffening, a crack in her perfectly composed facade. Sean was staring at his phone, his face illuminated by the glow of my latest message. All deposits have been returned to my company account. All arrangements for the week are cancelled. Your family's financial issues are about to become very public. Enjoy your caviar. What followed was chaos, choreographed as precisely as any gala I had ever planned. Richard pushed back his chair and rose, his face flushed with the twin poisons of rage and shame. Eleanor's jeweled hand flew to her diamond necklace, clutching it as though it could anchor her dignity. Melissa leaned in frantically to whisper to her husband. Thomas fumbled for his phone, desperate to verify the crumbling reality around him. And Sean. Sean sat motionless, the color draining from his face. Unlike the rest, he understood the depth of the damage. He knew what I had uncovered. He knew what it meant if Eleanor's society circle learned that the Caldwells couldn't pay their own dinner bill, let alone sustain the illusion of their fortune. My phone lit up. This time, not with another desperate text, but a call. Sean. I let it ring once, twice, then declined. Across the terrace, I watched him lurch to his feet, nearly toppling his chair as he stormed away from the table to try again. The phone buzzed again in my hand. This time, I answered. Anna, he hissed, his voice low and venomous, laced with panic. What the hell do you think you're doing? Seems I'm not family, I repeated, my tone steady, almost serene. So I'm not responsible for family celebrations. You need to fix this right now. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for my mother? For all of us? I have exactly the idea, Sean, I said. That was the point. There was silence for a beat. Just his ragged breathing, the chaos of raised voices behind him. Where are you? He demanded, his tone cracking, desperation seeping through. We need to talk. I can explain about Vanessa, about everything. I'm sure you can, I said coolly. The problem is, I've already seen the financial statements, Sean. I've seen the emails. I know the Caldwell empire is crumbling. And I know you've been moving assets offshore, hiding them before filing for divorce. His sharp intake of breath was all the confirmation I needed. He had never imagined I would uncover any of it. He had underestimated me, just as his family always had. Those were private, he stammered. Yes, they were. Just like the text messages from Vanessa about the baby. Just like the script for announcing our divorce at your mother's birthday dinner. Just like the seating chart that deliberately excluded me. Silence. On the terrace, the manager now addressed the entire table. Diners at nearby tables were turning, openly watching as the Caldwells' humiliation played out in real time. The spectacle they had designed for me had become their own undoing. Anna, please, Sean's voice cracked, all aristocratic confidence gone. The Caldwells were Boston aristocracy, old money rooted in shipping and railroads. Their wealth didn't need to shout. It revealed itself in the understated elegance of everything they owned and in the unshakable ease with which they moved through their world. Our romance began 6 months after I started working for the family. Sean pursued me with the same relentless determination he brought to his role at the Caldwell investment firm. But there were warning signs. You don't understand what this will do to us. I understand perfectly. That's why I did it. We can work this out. Come back to the hotel. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. No, Sean, I don't think we can work this out. I ended the call and slipped my phone into my clutch. Then I stepped out from the shadows. It was time for my final appearance as a Caldwell. As I crossed the terrace, 12 pairs of eyes locked on me. Some furious, some frightened, all disbelieving. Eleanor spoke first, her voice trembling with rage. How dare you ruin my birthday? I smiled, calm as glass. I learned from the best, Eleanor. Isn't this exactly what you planned for me? A public humiliation, an orchestrated exit. The only difference is, I rewrote the ending. Richard shoved back his chair. This is outrageous. You had no right. I had every right. I cut in. Every contract, every reservation, every arrangement was in my name or my company's. I simply adjusted the plans. You'll regret this, Melissa snapped. When Sean divorces you, you'll get nothing. That's where you're wrong. I turned my gaze squarely on Sean. I have copies of everything. The offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the fraudulent dealings. I'm sure the IRS will find them. Illuminating. Their faces drained to chalk as the implications sank in. In that moment, I felt no triumph, no vindication, only release, liberation. I turned my back on the Caldwells and walked away for the last time. The next morning, I left Italy. First class to Boston, upgraded with points I had banked planning their past extravagant vacations. The irony wasn't lost on me. Behind me, I left a family in freefall, their carefully constructed facade disintegrating in real time. Through the concierge, I learned that the Caldwells had settled their dinner bill by offering Eleanor's vintage Bulgari bracelet as collateral until a wire transfer could be arranged. By sunrise, whispers had already rippled through Rome's hospitality network. The illustrious American family couldn't cover their own expenses. Vendors I hadn't personally canceled began demanding payment in advance rather than promises. My phone filled with messages, some angry, others desperate. I read them during my layover in London, sipping Earl Grey in the calm of the British Airways lounge. Richard, this is actionable. Our lawyers will be in touch. Melissa, you've made the biggest mistake of your life. Thomas, did you really think you could humiliate our family without consequences? Eleanor's message was the most revealing. I always knew you were common. This vindictive display only proves what I've said from the beginning. But it was Sean's frantic cascade of texts that told the real story. A dynasty unraveling. You have no idea what you've done. My father had a minor heart episode. Is that what you wanted? The Prescotts and Whitmores saw everything. Do you know what this means for our standing? The hotel is demanding full payment for the entire week up front. They say all guarantees have been canceled. Finally. Please, Anna. I need to talk to you. It's about more than us now. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I forwarded every financial document I had collected to my attorney, with clear instructions to secure them until the moment they were needed. If the Caldwells wanted litigation, I would be ready. When I returned to our Beacon Hill brownstone, I didn't linger. I hired a moving company the very next morning, directing them with clinical detachment. I took only what was indisputably mine: my clothes, the jewelry I had bought for myself, my collection of first editions, the artwork I had acquired long before Sean. Everything else, the wedding gifts, the furnishings, even items we had chosen together, I left behind. I wanted no part of their legacy, no object that might tether me to the Caldwells' web of deceit. 2 days later, the Boston Globe ran a modest piece in the society pages. Caldwell Investment Group faces inquiry. The article was restrained, mentioning only financial irregularities and investor concerns. It wasn't front-page scandal, yet. But in Boston circles of old money, whispers traveled faster than headlines. And this was enough to send the first ripples. Sean appeared at my new apartment 1 week after I returned from Rome. He looked hollowed out, the polished veneer of privilege stripped away, replaced by raw desperation. "You need to come home," he said the moment I opened the door. Eleanor, his mother, had looked at me with thinly veiled disdain the first time Sean introduced me as more than his event planner. There were casual remarks about my modest beginnings, raised eyebrows when people realized I was dating a Caldwell. You've done well for yourself, Eleanor remarked at our first dinner as a couple, her smile never reaching her eyes. Self-made success is so American. I brushed aside the signals, because I was falling in love with Sean. This has gone far enough. This isn't a negotiating tactic, Sean, I answered evenly. This is divorce. He pushed past me without invitation, raking his hands through disheveled hair. The SEC is investigating father's accounts. 2 board members have resigned. Mother had to cancel her gala. 3 major donors pulled out. That sounds like a Caldwell family problem, I said coolly. Not mine. It's your problem if I go down with the ship, he shot back. We're still married. My debts are your debts. I allowed myself a small, deliberate smile. Not when I have proof you excluded me from financial decisions and hid assets with the intent to defraud me during divorce. My lawyer assures me that's enough to protect me. His facade cracked completely. Sean sank onto my couch, head in his hands. I never wanted it to be like this. What did you want, Sean? I asked. A wife to manage your social calendar? Someone to host perfect dinners while you rekindled things with Vanessa? Someone disposable when I was no longer convenient? He lifted his head, voice low. It wasn't like that in the beginning. I did love you. But not enough to stand up to your family, I said. Not enough to be honest about your affair. I sat across from him, strangely calm. When is the baby due? His eyes widened. How did you? 4 months, according to the texts. Congratulations. The silence that followed was suffocating. Outside, rain tapped steadily against the windows of my new apartment, smaller than the Beacon Hill brownstone, but mine, paid for with the business I had built from nothing, untouched by Caldwell money or influence. I'll give you whatever you want, Sean said at last. Just hand over the documents and sign an NDA. Name your price. And in that moment, I understood. The Caldwells would never truly grasp who I was. Even now, they thought I could be bought. I don't want your money, Sean, I said softly. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged. I rose, signaling the end of our conversation. The documents stay with my lawyer unless you try to drag me down with you. Divorce is simple. I leave with what's mine. You leave with what's yours. His voice was barely a whisper. And Vanessa? The baby? That's between you and your conscience. I hope you'll be a better husband to her than you were to me. After he left, I stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. The scandal unfurled in Boston over the following weeks, slow but merciless. The Boston Globe ran a deeper investigation into Caldwell Investment Group's irregularities. Longtime clients quietly withdrew their portfolios. Eleanor's positions on 3 prestigious charity boards shifted to emeritus, a polite exile. And when Vanessa's pregnancy became public, her engagement ring catching the light as she left her obstetrician's office, the timeline spoke for itself. In Boston society, infidelity could be overlooked if discreet. But blatant betrayal, tangled with scandal, was unforgivable. My business flourished, perhaps because of the scandal, not in spite of it. Clients who once regarded me with thinly veiled condescension now respected my discretion, my resolve, my refusal to be anyone's pawn. The story that spread wasn't of a woman scorned, but of a professional who would not be used and discarded. 6 months later, an invitation arrived that made me laugh aloud. A request to bid on planning Eleanor Caldwell's next charity gala. Pride, it seemed, had finally yielded to desperation. I declined with a polite note, citing a full schedule. The divorce moved swiftly, quietly. With their reputation and finances in freefall, the Caldwells signed the terms without a fight. Sean and Vanessa married without fanfare. Their daughter arrived 2 weeks later. I sent no gift. A year to the day after that night in Rome, I stood on another terrace in Italy, this time overlooking the glittering Amalfi coast. I was orchestrating a celebrity wedding, my phone buzzing with vendors waiting on my word, the sea stretching endless before me. And for the first time in years, I realized something startling. I was happy. Not despite the collapse of my marriage, but because of it. The Caldwells had tried to diminish me, to make me small enough to fit inside their story. Instead, they had freed me to reclaim my own. In losing what I once thought I wanted, I had discovered what I truly needed. Not validation from a family determined to reject me, but the strength to reject a life built on appearances. I lifted a glass of champagne to the setting sun, toasting the empty chair that had shown me exactly where I belonged. He seemed different from his family, more open-minded, less bound by lineage and social expectation. So when he proposed 11 months after our first date, I said yes, even as a quiet voice inside whispered that I was stepping into a world that might never truly accept me. The wedding was, of course, the social event of the season. I planned most of it myself. How could I entrust my own wedding to another planner? Eleanor had opinions about everything. The venue wasn't traditional enough, the menu was too adventurous, and the guest list omitted key names from Boston's social registry. I compromised where I could, but held firm where it mattered. Sean played the role of peacemaker, though I noticed he almost never contradicted his mother outright. After the wedding, the undermining grew more deliberate.